Bismillah.
Of North America and all over the world, so we can see the end to this pandemic. Amen.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you for the opening prayer. We have a full house today, from the BOT chairman to the president of NCNMO to the Amir, and a team of medical experts who will be answering the various questions that will be entertaining from our audience. But to get the ball rolling, I'll call on the BOT chairman, Alhaji Marshal Sulaiman, to give us the opening remark.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Assalamu alaikum. I welcome all of us to this first virtual town hall meeting for the NCNMO, which is our response to the COVID-19 pandemic going on. And this is by popular demand what many of our people have requested for. So I will quickly go through what NCNMO has done and what we are doing since this pandemic started a few weeks ago. The very first thing we did was to be responsive, proactively responsive to the callings of our community. We immediately canceled the annual National Leadership Convention, which was supposed to be taking place in North Carolina this weekend. We suspended that indefinitely. We later decided that we're going to have a virtual convention or discussion next week, inshallah. So we also created the the task force that's going to be dealing with the pandemic. The best thing for us to do, which we thought we did, was to actually converted the joint body, which is 3 representatives from Shura, 3 representatives from ESCO, and 3 representatives from the Board of Trustees. And we also invited 3 other people to join us. So we now have a national leadership task force responding to COVID-19 pandemic as an organization. So that's what we immediately did. Last Sunday, we had a local chapter leadership meeting on Sunday with our local chapter leaders, defined as the imams, the president, and the secretary of all the local chapters. As many of us are aware now, we have approximately 30 chapters. Last week, we had about 23 chapters represented, and we had a total of 80 people that attended that conversation, the discussion we had. And that was quite impressive. So the center of this, the epicenter of this right now, as we all know, is New York and New Jersey. We had some unfortunate development in that area during the week. We are not sure, or we are not concluding that those issues or development are related to COVID-19 specifically. But last week we lost 3 people, 3 of our members in New York, New Jersey axis. Again, we are not sure that that was directly related to COVID-19, but we had that incident. So what our leadership team did on Wednesday and on Thursday, we actually had a conversation with all the local chapters in New York and New Jersey on a one-on-one basis. Ibadur Rahman, Naheem, Namik, and the rest of the member chapters we have in New York and New Jersey. So what we want to achieve here today, in summary, is to continue to stay connected with our members. We know this is unprecedented. The end is not predictable. No one knows when this is going to be done, when we're going to end with this. But we want to also make sure that as leaders, we stay connected with our members. We share what we know, we share what we are doing, and more importantly, we want our members here to have direct access to us in terms of providing us suggestions, recommendations, and guidance. Lastly, we have constituted the welfare committee that is going to be looking into what we can do to help and support and assist our chapters locally, or even our individual members within the organization. So in the next 1.5 to 2 hours, we are going to be answering questions. Some questions already came in, but we are also going to be answering more questions as they continue to come in. I welcome you to join us in this conversation. We promise to be as transparent as possible. We probably will not have answers to all the questions, but we'll try our best and continue the conversation. And this might not be the last one we're going to have in terms of making sure that we have the town hall conversation with our people. That's my opening remark. Thank you very much. Looking forward to the conversation. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the next item on the agenda would be the President will be taking us through some specifics in terms of plan of action and best practices at the national level, at the local chapter level, and as individuals also, taking into cognizance the impact of the COVID-19 and how we should react under specific circumstances. The President, Alhaji Bayo Onanuga, please.
I want to thank everybody who has taken time to be on this call today. The pandemic that we are all facing is something that none of us ever expected, and is unprecedented. And then at the national level, what we have done is to quickly come together, like what the chairman said, to look at how we stay on top of what is facing us right now. At the national level, we came together to put up some action plan, which will be very good for both the chapters and the individual to work with and see how that could help us to run through these unfortunate situations that we are in. We have been told individually to exhibit social distancing. What we will encourage is that everybody should please go with these instructions at any level of our life. Let us at this time be adhering to that warning. It's going to be good for all of us. In our various works in our offices. Also at the national level, we also put part of our action plan is to encourage our chapters, all our programs. The fact that we know that we always do our program by coming together, our Salat, our all other programs that we always run has been in the past on face-to-face level. But with the social distance, we do not want all of this to go down. Our Iman should not go down. Our spiritual level should not go down because of the social distancing. So in this light, we are encouraging our chapters to find a way to turn or change the style to online programming, to encourage us to do that so that we stay connected and we continue to hold our programs as we do. At the national level, what we have done is to put up a technology team that will support, that will be supportive for the local chapter that may have some problems having that technology put in place. So we have a technology team that any chapter can kind of call on. We have the line. If any chapter has a problem getting through this, you can just send a word or an email to tech@ncnmo.org. We want to keep in touch with our membership. We also encourage the chapter leaders to make sure they stay in touch with their members. Keeping in touch is always good in this social distancing era. We have all form of social tech that we can use. We have WhatsApp, we have phone calls, we have emails. Let us use every opportunity to contact each other and stay connected, so that also helps to uplift everybody while they are away from each other. At the national level, we have, like what the chairman said, we have put up a welfare committee to help us do a brainstorming on how the national and also we encourage the local chapter to do the same in their locality. How we can be of assistance to our members. We need it at this point in time, and that's why the national has taken that lead to have a welfare committee in place, and we are working. We want to encourage us to help our elderly ones. They are the most vulnerable ones, and then those that have underlying health issues. So let us do as much as possible to help them do a lot of what they need to do by themselves without getting too close to them. We also, part of our action plan, which we have shared with our local chapters, is to encourage our programs. We know Ramadan is near. We also know that our also supposed to be ongoing. Learning for our kids, let us not relent in making efforts to put up online educational programs that our kids can kind of take advantage of. Financial planning is key at this point in time. We encourage our chapters to kind of put aside any capital project. Let us make sure the funds that is available to us are used for essentials. No unnecessary expenditure should be embarked upon. This is a time when we encourage our members and ourselves to be full of dua. It's only Almighty Allah who can give the best relief. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Mr. President, for the quick introduction, taking us through the plan of action and the best practices. As a Muslim organization, we believe there is a spiritual dimension to every circumstance, to every issue that we experience in our daily life. So on this point, I'll call on the Amir, who is going to give us some kind of admonition on how we are to react or how we are to absorb the circumstance that we find ourselves without losing our faith as a Muslim. So, Amir Mansour Alajide, over to you, sir.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين وآله وأصحابه أجمعين. We give praise and thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has kept all of us alive till this date. We beseech Him, we glorify His name, and we seek His protection from the ravaging coronavirus that is causing damages all around the world right now. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. First of all, I'd like to talk about a common question or position that has been going around since the outbreak of this pandemic. A lot of people have been asking, how did it come about? Who is responsible for it? You know, some people are claiming it's biowarfare, some people hate something. But as believers, as Muslims, our position and our take on this should be that nothing happens behind Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should all recognize and accept the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows about coronavirus. He knows about things that are going on behind the scene. Allah knows everything. And He has given us that assurance in the Holy Quran, wherein He said, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَعِنْدَهُ مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ لَا يَعْلَمُهَا إِلَّا هُوَ ويعلم ما في البر والبحر وما تسقط من ورقة إلا يعلمها ولا حبة في ظلمات الأرض ولا رطب ولا يابس إلا في كتاب مبين. In essence, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that there is nothing that happens in the world, on land, on sea, that Allah does not know about. No leaf falls off of a tree, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of that leaf. And there's nothing that is hidden in the darkness of the earth. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows about it. He knows about the dry and the wet. Everything has all been written in a clear book with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this should be the aqidah of the Muslims. This should be our position. This should be our faith. We should not be worried about the source or how it came about. But what we should know is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of everything that is going on. Then, if that be the case, what should be our reaction or our disposition to the pandemic? The first one is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned to us in the Quran. Allah says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, كُلًّا يُصِيبَنَا إِلَّا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَنَا وَمَوْلَانَا وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Allah says, He's telling us that we should always say that nothing, not even coronavirus can hurt or harm us, except if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained that it will harm us. Coronavirus or anything, any form of harm or evil will not touch us, except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained that it will happen. That should be our position. وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our patron. If anything happens to us, it is Allah that we have to turn to. And all believers, all Muslims should hold Allah as the only one to rely on. We should all rely on Allah. That should be our position, our number one position. And this is tawakkul, reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then the second one, position that we should all take during this pandemic is one of patience. All Muslims have to exercise patience. And we can understand this through one of the sayings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when our mother, the mother of the believers, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, asked the Holy Prophet about plague, about pandemic, viruses of this nature, similar to coronavirus. What if she was seeking to understand what about them? And the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in response to Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, said, the plague is a form of punishment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished some people with. Whomever He wished in the past, Allah punished them with it. But for the believers, فَجَعَلَّهُ اللَّهُ رَحْمَةً لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah has made the plague coronavirus and all evil diseases a blessing for the believer. Allah has made it a blessing for the believers. And whoever finds him or herself in a town that has been overtaken by the pandemic, they should rely on Allah. They should have the conviction and the faith that nothing bad or nothing evil will happen to them except as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained. And if anything happens to us in the course of this pandemic, inshallah, like the Prophet said, it is a form of shaheed. We are going to be martyred. Whoever is afflicted by any form of pain or adversity as a result of this pandemic, it is martyrdom for us as believers. And in one saying, the Prophet Muhammad said, "At-ta'un shahadatun li kulli Muslim." So every Muslim who dies because of this pandemic is definitely a martyr. So, and in closing, we have to rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is our patron. We have none other than him to talk to consult, to rely upon. We have to accept and bear everything with patience. And we have to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is not a time to be quiet. In the quietness of our soul, in the quietness of our homes, we should turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as He has actually instructed us to do in the Quran when He says, "Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ista'inu bis-sabr was-salat, inna Allah ma'as-sabirin." Allah has asked us to seek His help and assistance through patience and prayer. And finally, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us assurance that إنما العسر يسرا فإنما العسر يسرا. Definitely, after difficulty, His will come. After difficulty, His will come. On this note, we pray and beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help this community, to help our families, to help the Ummah, Allah to cut away this evil disease for us. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Amir, thank you so much. We will be jumping right into the middle of it now. We are going to be we're going to be talking to the medical experts in the house. We put together a very strong medical team. Dr. Ilupeju is on the line. Dr. Adeyinka is on the line. Elijah Mujidat Deniyi is on the line. This board certified nurse, and we have Dr. Salman. So to open the floor, I'll call on Dr. Sukomi Olayinka to take us through what is COVID-19, how big is it, what are we dealing with? There has been a lot of things that we've seen in the media. We're even almost getting confused. So Dr. Adeyinka would help us clear the air on some of the things, critical issue about COVID-19. Dr. Adeyinka, please, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We thank Almighty Allah for giving us this opportunity. We thank Him for the Islamic community. We'll ask Him for blessings on all our community. I would like to express my sincere appreciation for the organizers of this forum, and it's my pleasure to share this forum with a lot of my professional colleagues. I don't consider myself an expert in coronavirus. In fact, there's not a lot of experts right there. But I'll take you back into some of the historic things, as well as things that have been documented in the medical literature, as well as things that are going on around the world. So what is coronavirus, or what are viruses? These viruses are small, tiny organisms that you can't see them. And you have to use multiple magnification under the microscope to be able to see them. How does viruses differ? They differ because we use what we call antivirus medications to treat them when it's available, as opposed to bacterial infection, whereby we use antibiotics. In the world of bacterial infection research, a lot of research has been out there, a lot of antibiotics, and that area, I think we've got that down. But the viruses, they pose a problem, especially when you have a pandemic. Why? Because they have tendency to produce proteins, whereby it's kind of difficult for the body to actually treat them, for the body to actually get rid of them. Coronavirus is a group of viruses that cause things from common cold to what we call severe respiratory distress syndrome. I think our closest and initial experience was when we have MERS, which was the Middle East respiratory syndrome. Alhamdulillah, that was limited to the Middle East. COVID-19, as is labeled by the CDC, is coronavirus type 2. And as we all know, it came from China. It was first discovered in China from a person that works in in a seafood market. And from then, it spread all over the world. And everybody's been battling this. Let me tell you some of the things that we know in the literature. 81% of these cases, they are mild. So most people probably will get rid of it. About 14% will have severe cases, whereby they will need additional treatment. And about 5% of people will need what we call critical cases. What are some of the things that people will feel? We know that the incubation period is anywhere from 2 to 14 days. What do we call incubation period? That's the time when you've been exposed to the virus and you're actually replicating the virus in your bloodstream. You may not have any symptoms, but that is very important because it's that time that you are able to transfer it to your family members or your close contact. We talk about a pandemic. What is a pandemic? A pandemic is something that is affecting all countries all over the world. So if you look at the US today, and the last time I was on CNN, we're up to about 649,000 with about 30,000 deaths. In the US, it was about 120, close to 120,000 with about 1,800 deaths. That number continues to change. And depending on where you are, it doubles every 48 to 72 hours. So if you look at which people get the severe disease and which people are likely to die, we thank Almighty Allah that this is not a disease that affects our children and babies. Up to less than the age of 60, the mortality, when we say mortality in medicine, is people that may die from disease, is only about 0.2 to 1.3. When you get to the age of 60, I really want us to pay attention to that. That mortality gets to be 6.3 from 60 to 69. When we cross that 69 and we get to 70, between 70 and 79, about 8% of people that will contract the illness may die. What happens when we get to age of 80, about 14.8. So this is why we're saying that our elderly patients, we need to protect them. If you also look at the medical literature, which people are likely to get the critical disease or the severe disease? We've talked about age. The older you are, the likelihood that you have a very bad disease. If you have diabetes, if you have cancer, if you have COPD, people that live in long-term facilities as well as nursing home patients. The nursing home patients, that's not a new-brainer. Most of the people living in the nursing home, they are elder patients, as well as COPD. So in all of this, so what do people feel? So the first symptoms I tell you is almost similar to a common cold. One thing that has been found to be very consistent in anybody with COVID-19, fever. About 90% of patients will have fever, but I would say that with word of caution, because elderly patients and are immunocompromised may not be able to mount fever because of their immune status. People will get cough. People may have aches and pain, as well as shortness of breath. The acute phase may go away. And then in the second phase, which is what makes this thing very deadly, is the deterioration that people get. And this is what I want people to pay attention to. This is when you now get what we call acute respiratory distress syndromes, because this virus get into the lungs and causes a lot of inflammatory changes, whereby there is a blockage of the exchange of air, and people will need to be on some kind of breathing modalities. The second thing that causes bad disease or death is the secondary infection, because the immunity, the bacteria will depress your immunity. You may get a bad pneumonia. From that, people get sepsis, and people get they may die for it. So all in all, this is a very deadly disease. Why? Because as of today, there is no treatment for this disease. There's been a lot of things in the medical literature, which I'm not going to get into, but as of this moment, maybe tomorrow, we don't have a treatment. How about testing? There's been a lot of work that's been done by the CDC, and they're looking rapidly into how can people get tested. What we're seeing right now, it's not surprising to most of the scientists, because we were not testing. So we're beginning to test people, so that incidence continue to grow, and I think it will continue to grow. Hopefully, Allah will give us His mercy so that we get to that peak and we will change the curve. What are some of the things that we know which is beneficial? Like the Amir was saying that sometimes this may be allowance to want us to be able to so that maybe we'll come closer to him. We're grateful that this is a droplet. What do I mean by that? Because you have to be in close contact. People have to sneeze on you to get the infection. How about if it was airborne? Where are we all going to run to? So what is this telling us? This is telling us that we are all under the protection of Allah. I pray that He will continue to guide us and be with us. As I said, we know the incubation period is 2 to 14 days. That is why the social distancing has been recommended. One good thing is that this virus is very susceptible to most household disinfectant. Lysol is one of them. So it is important that we wipe our doorknobs, we wipe our cabinets, we wash our hands. So all in all, this is what we know about coronavirus at this time. I know there's going to be a lot of questions. And at this point, I will stop and pass it over to the moderator. Thank you so much, Mr. Adejiran.
Thank you, Dr. Adeyinka, for a well-presented talk. And we'll roll on to the next item. I'll call on Dr. Olayiwola Salman to take us through what are some of the things from medical perspective that we need to do to, keep the disease away from us, to stay safe. What are some of these things that are real, some of these things that are myths around COVID-19? So for the next 5 minutes, Dr. Salman will be taking us through this area. Dr. Salman, over to you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Inshallah, I'll be discussing about the prevention of COVID-19. I want to first of all thank NCNMO for giving us the opportunity to discuss this topic, which is on the lip of almost everybody around the world as relates to its complication and the effect, be it religious effect, social effect, and socio-economic effect. The way I'm going to talk about the prevention is going to be in such a way that for us as individuals, what can we do on our own to prevent the disease condition? Of course, the government, the city, the states, the federal government, they are doing everything to try to contain the disease condition and mitigate its effects. But on our own part, how do we prevent ourselves from getting the disease condition? And those who have the disease condition, are they going to keep themselves away from spreading the disease condition as well? So, but when you're talking about prevention of a disease condition, especially the virulence COVID-19, we have to talk about how is it spread? How does it spread around? And what Dr. Adeyinka, when he was talking about the disease condition, she made mention about droplet, respiratory droplet spread. What does that mean? When you have a disease condition that is spreading through a respiratory droplet, it means that if an individual is infected with that disease condition and you happen to cough or you sneeze, you're going to, when you sneeze or you cough, you're going to come out with a shower of the virus, such that any person who is not infected and come in contact with that virus by any means, that individual is going to get that disease condition. And if you can prevent that spread from that droplet, you prevent the spread of that disease condition to individual, to the society, to the city, to the state, and to the country at large. So, and that brings up the issue of the prevention. Although there is still a research being done about possible, what we call in the medical term, fecal-oral transmission, meaning that because the disease condition causes nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, it is assumed or it is believed or it's been looked into that if people get in contact with the feces in one way or the other of the person that has this disease condition, they can transmit it. But that is still being studied. But what we do know for now is the fact that it's spreading through respiratory droplets. So the prevention has to do with individual. For instance, let me take it one after the other. If somebody does not have a disease condition and you've not been exposed to anybody who has the disease condition, the best thing you can do to prevent yourself from getting that disease condition as an individual, the way we're talking, the way you are, wherever you are, is to stay at home. Just stay at home and stay at home. If you stay at home, let's say by yourself, and you've not been in contact with somebody with that disease condition or somebody with suspected disease condition, if you stay at home, say 20 years, 10 years, I'm just trying to exaggerate on that, but if you stay at home, you will the likelihood of you getting that disease condition is almost zero because you are not in any way in contact with the respiratory droplets from an individual with the disease condition. However, it's unlikely to happen because we are human beings, we interact with people. You interact with your family, you interact with your friends, and you interact with your relatives. And people, of course, people live with you. So the best thing to do, if you don't have it and you are not in contact with somebody who has the disease condition, is to practice what we call hand hygiene, meaning that you constantly, frequently, often, you wash your hands with water and soap. Basically, it is advised that you use warm water, about 25 degrees Celsius. You wash your hand for at least 20 seconds. You do that constantly. As soon as you touch something, you go back and wash your hand. You can do that 10 times in a day. You can do that 15 times in a day. As long as you touch things around, you have to do that. And the reason, part of the reason being that, like I said, the droplets, it can be in the air. For instance, that shower of viruses can be in the air for an extended period of time. Some people said few minutes, some people said maybe 40 minutes. And not only in the air, it can be on the surfaces, different surfaces. And that viruses on those surfaces can be there for as long as, sometimes some people said maybe few hours, some people said up to 3 days. And some people even said up to 5 days. The research on that is still ongoing. And most of what we'll be discussing today, let me make it clear, a lot of them are still evolving in terms of the theories. You know, the research is being done at this point in time. So new recommendation and new theory are coming up every day because we are all studying this disease condition. It's a novel disease condition. So at home, you are not, in contact with anybody. You practice your, add hygiene, water and soap, 20 seconds, warm water. If you are not able to get that, maybe you're in an environment where you don't have water or where you are not, the water is not accessible and soap, you use what we all know as hand sanitizers. That hand sanitizers must contain at least about 60% of alcohol. Of course, the ulama are here on this forum. We all agree that, we can use that to prevent disease condition. Of course, it's not drinkable. Of course, if you drink that, you're going to die because we have different form of, ethanol, alcohol. So for that to work effectively in preventing that, getting in contact with that virus, we use water and soap. We use hand sanitizer that contains about 60% of alcohol content, and we rub it until our, hands are dry. So that is a situation where somebody does not have disease condition. However, if you have to go out of your house and go outside the house, that is when the issue of social distancing comes in. What is the meaning of this? What does that indicate, and what is the goal of that? The goal of that is for somebody who might have the disease condition and is outside, and you are outside too. The goal is to make sure that you are at a distance from every individual who might have the disease condition or who might have symptoms of that, who we don't know might have it. Especially in an environment of, in a state where there's pandemic condition like we have now, because you cannot tell who has this disease condition or who does not have this disease condition. So you are outside, you practice social distancing, and that prevents individual who has the disease condition from spreading it to a group, to a society, to a facility, because the disease condition, like we all know, is very virulent. And that's why the states, the city, they talk about lockdown, meaning that, all the workplace should be locked down, the school should be locked down. And also they talk about mass gathering, to prevent mass gathering. And for you to limit the spread of the disease condition, because it's so virulent, it's in the air, it's everywhere. You want to make sure that the mass gathering is very, very limited, so that probably, most of the time now we're talking about 10 to 50, people. In fact, in some of the states now, it's limited to less than 10 or even 10. And I must tell you also that in Germany, as we speak, about 1 week ago, they banned gathering of people more than 2 in the society. If you are more than 2, you cannot congregate together. That is how aggressive they are in terms of preventing, the spread of the disease condition by way of social distancing. However, if you have to go to work, maybe because you are involved in an essential services, then if you're at work, you also practice that. And how do you do that? You distance yourself from your co-worker by way of 6 feet, 1.8 meters. And by that, it is assumed, it is believed for now, that even if an individual has a disease condition and is coughing or sneezing, that distance of 6 feet, that virus will not get to you. And by that way, of course, you're preventing yourself from getting that disease condition. So, and that is a way of, social distancing. However, let's assume that you are home. One way or the other, you don't know if you get gotten in contact with somebody who has the disease condition, you begin to cough, you begin to develop fever, you begin to develop shortness of breath, and you're at home with your family. What do? Because you also have like the ulama will say, of course, you cannot spread a disease condition. Rasulullah also recommended you cannot spread any disease condition. If you have it, you have to make sure people don't get it from you. So what do you do to prevent the spread also while you're at home and you begin to develop symptoms? What you have to do immediately, and that's the issue of what we call self-quarantine or self-isolation, meaning that if you have a vacant room, you have a private room, you go there right away. And of course, you begin to wear your surgical mask at home so that people at home, they don't get in contact with you. They don't get in contact with the virus coming out from you. So you self-isolate yourself, you get into a room, and anybody that will be in contact with you has to wear masks. So while you're at home, what you need to do, you call your doctor and say, what do I do moving forward? Most likely, your doctor will tell you have to go to the emergency room. And the reason being that, for the purpose of statistics, we have to know who has a disease condition and who does not have a disease condition. So when you call your doctor, of course, immediately you leave your house, you wear your mask because you cannot spread it around. And the reason for the mask, like we all know, is to limit that transfer of the virus from you in case you sneeze or you cough. So when you get to the emergency room, as soon as you get to the emergency room, it's not everybody that is admitted now. I'm talking about somebody who is not going to be admitted, because some of them will come to our emergency room and we see them and we test them and they are positive for COVID-19. Do we need to admit everybody? No, we don't admit everybody. If you have a mild symptoms, meaning that your cough is not so bad, sneezing is not so bad, you don't have so much fever, you're very stable in medical terms, meaning that, you are talking, you're doing well, you are not really sick, we send you back home. So when you get home, you don't want to spread the disease condition. Again, you continue to undergo self-isolation. And of course, you cannot share anything that has to do with personal household with any other member of the family. You have to be in your room. You just have to be in your room for every now and then. You cannot go out. When you go out, you have to wear your mask. And anybody that is going to care for you also should wear a mask to prevent the spread. And that's very, very important. So you get out of self-isolation after you talk to your doctor. And of course, we can talk more about that in case we have questions on that. So you only get out of isolation when your doctor tells you to get out of isolation. But the most important thing is that we must ensure that either as an individual who has a disease condition or who does not have a disease condition, everybody has a responsibility to prevent the spread of the disease condition. And that's how you can prevent yourself from getting the disease condition. You stay in your house, you wash your, hand hygiene, and of course, respiratory hygiene. When you cough, when you sneeze.
If you don't mind, you want to round up in the next 30 seconds to 1 minute so that we can get into the question and answer. There are a lot of questions that we need to deal with.
Let me quickly say that when you cough at any point in time, you have to use tissue paper. And of course, if you don't have a tissue paper, you use the inside of your elbow to prevent your cough from going out to people. So that's just the summary of prevention of COVID-19. And, if we have questions, we'll entertain questions. Jazakallah khairan.
Thank you, Dr. Salman. We'll get into the question and answer now. There are a lot of questions that we have here, and the questions keep coming in. So my take is please to medical experts. We know you're fully loaded. You can, it's your area of specialty, but please, so that we can give opportunity to all of these, we can do justice to all of these questions within the limit of time that we'll have. Let's make it short, quick, and snappy. There will be room. We'll send a contact out for people who need additional information or additional resources on a specific questions to be addressed behind the scene, but we want to be able to take as much questions as possible. So I'll jump right into it. And the first question, incidentally, I'll be directing it to Dr. Salman. Is it true that some of us from Africa, that we have a higher level of immunity to COVID-19? Is it true?
That's the part of the myth. Nobody has any special immunity against COVID-19. And that's not surprising that we're having cases now in Africa.
Okay, so that addresses it. Before I will let you go for now, one of our callers asked the question, if I feel like I have symptoms, what do I do? How and where can I get tested?
It depends on where you are. If you have symptoms, you call your doctors if you have a primary doctor. And if you don't have a primary doctor and you feel you have symptoms, you go to the emergency room and they will evaluate you there and determine what to do for you moving forward.
Okay. Dr. Ibukwaju, there is a question that I would like for you to handle. It says there is a mental health side of effect of COVID-19. What is the plan of NCNMO to address this? Or what's your general advice for people who have, mental related issue as a fallout of COVID-19?
The most important thing for us to do, and which we are trying to do with NCNMO, is to find a way to promote the health of our members. When it comes to mental health, what we are trying to do is to find a way to maintain the emotional health and well-being during this outbreak. And the medical committee is trying to put up a number of people who will be available to give counseling to our members who may be involved or may be exposed to this virus. The benefit for this is that when the emotional health is taken care of, the individual might be able to heal better. The stress level will be reduced. We help in combating the isolation and loneliness and give them tips of survival when they're in this isolation period. From experiences of what we had from people, being alone in a confined place for 14 days is not a very pleasant feeling. And if once in a while somebody can get in contact with them, talk to them, encourage them, that will go in a long way to help in this taking care of their health. So like I said, NCNMO, we are trying to put some social psychologists and psychiatrists together among ourselves who will get to call these people and talk to them and consult them. But the thing is that we need to know who is exposed and who is in quarantine before we can do that. So I will employ all members, the chapters, the leaders, to make sure we know these people so we can contact them. Assalamu
alaikum. And with regards to that, NCNMO has created a dedicated outreach, a dedicated outlet for the purpose of COVID-19. So if you have any concern, there's need for any information, please send an inquiry to covid19@ncnmo.org. COVID-19@ncnmo.org. That's the primary point of contact. The next question will be for Sister Dr. Zainab. What is the recommendation for us with respect to shopping? Some people even say it's not safe to go out and do shopping at all. When you buy stuff from the grocery, you have to wash the tomato, you have to wash banana. What's your advice from medical perspective?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Well, basically, based on the FDA, there is no evidence that food or packaging has been associated with the transmission of COVID-19. So as of this point, we're asking individuals, if you need to shop, you may just go just to shop only, and make sure that once you get back home, so once you're home, you would need to wash your hands, as everyone is saying. Make sure that grocery packs. Even if you come home with your grocery packages, you leave them at the doorstep and just coming, you wash your tomatoes. You don't have to wash bananas, and nobody's asking you to wash bananas. You wash your tomatoes as you would normally do, and also wash your hands, avoid close contact, clean and disinfect regularly, as everyone has said. And then, I mean, if you're sick or you have any concerns, you can always call your healthcare professional. But again, there is no evidence that food or food packaging has been associated with the transmission of COVID-19. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Still hang on. There is one other question that is related to that. So, are we supposed to avoid all gatherings of more than 10 people? Is there a way you go shopping, maybe while checking out? How critical is it?
Well, here is the thing again, as everybody has said, and so the spread of the virus is in really close proximity. When you're really close to an individual, less than 6, now they're saying 3 to 6 feet. So if you're very, very close to someone, that's when you have the possibility of contacting the virus. But again, you need to be as far as possible, even from the cashier who is trying to check you out. Large events and mass gatherings can contribute to the spread of the coronavirus, which includes things like conferences, festives, parade, concerts, sporting events, or weddings. And this has, as we have seen, this has actually happened here in the United States following some events. We have seen that the COVID-19 has actually spread more following such gatherings. And so we do advise against large gatherings. And basically, we recommend for you to be in close contact with your immediate family. And actually, the recommendation now is avoid neighbors, avoid kids of neighbors, stay within your home. You could just, greet your neighbors from a distance. And so once again, large gatherings is not advised at all at this time.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zainab. I will go next to Alaja Mujidat Adeni. There is a question here, and permit me if I murder the name of the, one of the medical terminologies here. Is it true that there is a grave adverse effect with the use of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs such as ibuprofen? There has been, people have been saying it, you use ibuprofen, use paracetamol and the rest. Is there a side effect?
Salam alaikum.
You need to unmute, Alaja. You're on mute.
Salam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
For being able to be part of this program. On the question of the NSAID from the safety medicine group, it shows that the NSAID is one of the medication, is non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medication that they use for some people that they have arthritis or some people take it for the fever. But however, with this COVID-19, it says that it's not appropriate to use the NSAID, to treat the fever. If one have been using NSAID for somebody like taking it for rheumatoid arthritis and not having fever, he should continue to take in NSAID like ibuprofen. But however, if he's having COVID-19 and also having fever, is not allowed. I mean, they said that it's not good to take NSAID, and there is no study that shows the NSAID, taken by the COVID-19 people. But based on the thing that we know, the ibuprofen exhibit acute kidney injury. So like kidney failure. So they said that we should stay away from taking ibuprofen or anything in the NSAID group. But the preferred medication, if you're having temperature 99.6 and above, preferred medication to use is Tylenol for now, especially if you test positive for COVID-19.
Before I let you go, next there is another question that is related to that, especially among we Nigerians. There is a question that just came in. It says, is chloroquine advisable for either as a prevention or as treatment for COVID-19?
Alhamdulillah, you know, as we all know, we kind of scared to take chloroquine here, unless if you really, you know, the one that they're using here is the hydroxychloroquine, which they use it as part of the people that having rheumatoid arthritis. But lately, well, the study showing that people taking hydroxychloroquine and the Zitromax in another country that they use it to treat the COVID-19 is helping them. So this is something that now Trump, our President Trump, they're looking into it, whereby they can use these the hydroxychloroquine, not really chloroquine, but in our own country, you know, in Nigeria, they use the chloroquine to treat malaria and some other stuff. So that will be on an individual basis, and also to contact your provider, you know, to ask them, you know, this is especially if you are not really exposed to this COVID-19, why do you want to take this medication? You know, you have to have an indication before you start treating yourself. So the best thing is to contact your provider to see if it's necessary for you to take this medication.
Okay, so before I let you go, still on the treatment, no, this is not, it's not related to the treatment. It's about chance of a survivor. We know the CDC, the guidelines, they say if you are exposed, if you think you've been exposed, stay at home, self-quarantine. And even when you go to the emergency room, if they think your situation is not so critical, they probably, you know, let you go home. The question is, what is the chance of survival of someone who has been exposed and shows symptoms without receiving medical treatment? What chance does that person stand?
See, it depends on the people underlying, you know, health. Because when we talk about these people that are having COVID-19, you know, it's more or less linked to the respiratory illness. The people that already have asthma, COPD, you know, allergy, you know, some of the symptoms of COVID-19 is kind of similar to that. If you are having these symptoms and you have, you know, COVID-19, it makes it complicated. So in terms of self-isolation, you know, the best thing is to follow the direction, you know, as stipulated by the government. If you are saying that to stay away, isolate yourself for 14 days, isolate yourself. If you're still having the symptoms, you can follow with your with the direction that they give or the treatment, you know. But to me, it depends on you know, the underlying illness that is going on. So the immunity of individual, you know, ability to fight the infection, it is different from one person to the other.
Thank you, Elijah. Let's move on. Like I said, we have a myriad of questions.
Before you move on, let me just add a few things. We are actually in exceptional circumstances. This time of uncertainty, we have to be sure that we get facts which make things clear to us. When we have divisions and we have facts, facts will help us to unite. And also, the issue of this time we have now of a crisis, there are a lot of things which are not true, which is being thrown around. So we should strive to get the facts on everything that's come to us through WhatsApp or any kind of social media. One, issue of chloroquine. When Trump mentioned chloroquine, this was because of during the SARS epidemic, some people tried it in the Southeast Asia, and they felt it helped. There was no scientific evidence or base paper that shows that chloroquine actually killed those people. It was just anecdotal reports of those patients they will use chloroquine on. And when Trump mentioned it, it spread everywhere, all over the world. There was a report of a guy in Arizona who had some chloroquine phosphate for his fish tank, to clean his fish tank, which he took the chloroquine. He died, his wife ended up in the ICU. In Nigeria, before the announcement of Trump, chloroquine tablet was being sold like 6 tablets in the sachet for 400 naira. It went up to 5,000 naira per sachet. People were rushing after it. These are information which can harm people because it's not a fact. It's not well evidently searched and said to be actually factual scientific evidence. So we have to be very careful about what we hear and what people tell us. We have to look for what the fact is to be able to make sure we follow those information. The issue of the ibuprofen, of course, if you take too much of a non-steroidals, it might have some effect on your kidney. But initial problem they have was that when people take it, it might mask the symptoms of COVID-19, which is fever. It might reduce the fever. There's supposed to be one of the enzymes in the non-steroidal cascade, which is supposed to affect the way you respond to inflammation in your throat, which they say might affect the positivity of the diagnosis. And that's why they were saying maybe people should stay away from it. It's okay to use paracetamol, that's fine. But I don't think there's a concrete evidence that COVID-19 patients would be worse if they take non-steroidals. That's not so far, there's nothing like that. There was a letter written in the Lancet Medical Journal, which just formed an hypothesis on that. And that was what all those information are based on. So it's not a factual evidence.
Assalamu alaikum. Let me quickly add also to what Dr. Lupoju said. In fact, let me quickly talk about it because it's important when it comes to ibuprofen. It's only been shown that 4 children used chloroquine when they had COVID-19, and it has a terrible adverse effect on them. And that's when they said the children, they should never use ibuprofen. For adults, no concrete research on that based on, as per what Dr. Lupoju said. But for children, it's a no, 100% for now.
Okay, thank you. Sister, I think this question would be for Sister Zainab. Is treatment for steam treatment, as we've been hearing, people have talked about steam, hot steam. Is it proven to be a treatment for COVID-19? Does it slow it down?
There hasn't been. So here is the thing. I think we need to really adhere to guidelines, and we need to actually adhere to expert opinions. There hasn't been any proving guideline from experts working to say that the steam can actually help. Some people do recommend take hot water, do some steaming, or I think people say that because of the cough, the harsh cough that is associated with the illness, just to help to relieve the cough, and the humidity kind of helps, but it doesn't prevent COVID-19 in any way. It does not prevent the illness.
There's even a question here about hot water. Say, how about drinking hot water and baking soda?
Again, as Dr. Adinke had said and told us at the beginning, this is a viral infection. Viruses do not, viruses do not respond to cold water, hot water. So again, these are all myths that may not be truly accurate. They may help symptomatically when a patient actually does have symptoms, but they again not associated with prevention or illness or cure of the illness.
Thank you. I'll bring back Dr. Adeyinka on for the next question. The person wants to know, we're in the age of technology. We have broken ground. We have made a lot of advancements. Is it correct to conclude that COVID-19 is a confirmation of failure of science and medicine? Dr. Adeyinka.
Well, just like Dr. Ilupeju had alluded to, we're broadcasting this, so we have to be careful. The evidence out there is that this is coronavirus is a medical illness. Scientists are still working on it. So I am not going to say it's a failure of science. As we know, this is a pandemic, a viral infection, and we should take it as that. Let me go back. I wanted to say something about medication use, not about NSAID, but about ACE inhibitor, which is a medication that people use for high blood pressure. There's also a lot of rumor, especially people that have hypertension and taking medication like lisinopril, losartan, and the like. And I'm addressing that because people want to know that. As primary care physician, you get a lot of calls. We've been getting a lot of calls. Should I take off my medication? As of today, the jury is not out there. The medical literature said, yeah, maybe there may be some disadvantage, but that's not been proven in science. The American College of Cardiology has also not recommended people should stay away from taking their medication because of COVID-19. Thank you so much.
Yeah, don't go yet. I want you to also take the next question. The person wants to know when, at the minimum, at least in the United States, when should we expect social distancing to end?
It depends. Again, the jury is not out there. We haven't seen the peak of these illnesses. Although our president is saying maybe he wants to relax, but the epidemiologists are saying we have to be careful. If you look at what happens in China and South Korea, where they are to relax that social distancing, they add they begin to have another bound. So if you ask me when, I looked on the CDC website as of today, they're maybe saying maybe up till May, but we don't know. So until we know, we can't really put a time on it. I will say we'll continue to feel the pulse of our city, we feel the pulse of the nation, and we'll continue to adhere to all medical advice. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Adeyinka. Dr. Ilupeju, I'll be directing the next two questions to you. It's a reality that it's not everybody in the US that is documented, so to say. For people out of fear of being undocumented, they fall sick. Or they think they have symptoms of COVID-19. What is your advice for them, Dr. Ilupeju?
I didn't get your question clearly. Could you repeat the question?
For people who are undocumented and out of fear of, the agents of the law, if they feel they have a symptom of COVID-19, what would be your advice to them?
Okay. Now, the issue of undocumented immigrants is vary from state to state. State of New York, I said anybody who's undocumented should not be afraid and should come out and let him or her be treated. That's from the state of New York. Department of Homeland Security has not said anything on it, which I've searched for that. I've not seen anything they said concretely on it. So it might be from state to state. But my advice generally is that if you think you have the symptoms, there are health centers in each state where you can go to, where your immigration status might not be an issue. At least I know for Massachusetts, we have some health center where you can go and get healthcare, and the payment or the finances is not an issue. There are some like we have in Massachusetts. I don't know about the states. But for your own sake, I think to seek care is the best option. Okay. Now, if you have symptoms, you talk to somebody in the emergency room or on the phone, and they'll ask you a few questions. If they think you need to have testing, to come in for testing, then they will advise you to do that. And if the condition should get worse, I think you should go to the emergency room. What do I mean by getting worse? If you're having problems breathing, the initial symptoms you have is probably fever and cough and little sore throat. If you start having problem breathing, then you should go to the emergency room, regardless of your status.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Lupeju. Before I let you go, very quickly, I think you've answered a question that is related to the next one. It says, how should the head of a household keep his household free of trauma as a result of frustration and increased tension? What's your advice? Dr. Lupeju.
Hello, I didn't get your question clearly. Could you repeat your question?
Yeah, I said, what can the head of a household do to keep his household free of trauma as a result of frustration and increased tension occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, this period of time, everybody is under stress with what is going on. Not just those of us who are in healthcare, but everybody else. So as for family affair, one has to make sure one follows the guidelines for the CDC in terms of keeping distances, not going outside when you're not supposed to, and keeping all the oral hygiene and all those information. Now, as Muslims, we have to go back to our Aqidah and take care of our family the way we know best, by praying together and discussing with them and interacting with them, making them do what's going on, that everything belongs to the will of Allah. And we as obedient members of our Jama'ah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide us and protect us. But at the same time, we have to protect ourselves. And that's why we have to follow the instructions of not going to area where there are a lot of gatherings. That's why we stop the Jama'ah prayers. That's why we stop the Salatu. We are doing them online. And all those things is supposed to safeguard us. And inshallah, Allah will guide all of us. Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Lupeju. And that would lead us on to the next question. We'll take a little break now from medical-related questions and go a little bit spiritual. As we know, we said in the beginning of the program that everything as Muslim, we have to put it within a complete perspective. So somebody asked, is it haram to suspend Jama'ah prayer to close the masjid? Imam Tadeshe, do you want to help clarify this very quickly?
نعم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Actually, there are differences of opinion on the issue, but the majority of the scholars said no, it is not haram to suspend the salah in the masajid. Why? Because to preserve life of congregants, trumps the necessity of making salah in congregation. And from my research of the topic to date, it seems to me that the majority of the scholars in some countries, which most Muslims actually follow worldwide, are of the opinion that Muslims should close down the masajid and not go to these places where people usually congregate to make salah. And some other scholars said, well, قُلْ لَنْ يُصِيبَنَا إِلَّا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَنَا هُوَ مَوْلَانَا وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُتَوَكِّلُونَ. Well, we believe in the ayah that says, say, O Muhammad, nothing will happen to us إِلَّا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَنَا, unless for that which is already written down upon us. هُوَ مَوْلَانَا, He, Allah, is our leader, is control of our lives, and upon Him that believers should believe. However, these are things that scholars are debating among themselves, and from these two groups of scholars, some other scholars said, well, even if the masajid are closed down, there is fardu kifaya, which is obligation of sufficiency, that a group of Muslims can go, even those masjid are closed down for general public who come to make salah, a group of them should go there. But the policy that NCNMO Shuro has taken into consideration here is the preservation of life over that of the congregation. So that is summary of the answer, inshallah.
Okay, so before I let you go, and it's also related to that, it says with social distancing, we're not doing a lot of things in Jama'ah. If the ultimate happens and we happen to lose a member of our community, how do we handle the janazah?
Very good question. That's a very serious question. Allah knows best, but from the research that many scholars have done, even since this COVID-19 started, is that those who are going to take care of the ghusl, janazah for the individual, should be well protected. In other words, just like the doctors and the nurses and the medical experts have to make sure they have all the necessary tools, their clothing covering their mouth and nose and so on and so forth, those who are going to do the washing of the body should make sure that is done. Otherwise, they should not even try to wash the body in this case. Why? Because there is a high potential, or there is almost 100% chance that those who wash that kind of body of a person that died of COVID-19 will contract the disease is there. Therefore, they should not put themselves in danger. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى تَهْلُكَ, and do not cause your own death with your own hands. Allah knows best.
Allah, alhamdulillah, thank you. Before we go back to questions related to medical, and there are some other ones related to social economy. Amir, the next question will be for you, and it says, what are some of the recommended prayers that we can be offering against this pandemic? And is it allowed to hold special tajud for this purpose? Very quickly, Amir, please.
Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. Thank you so much for the questions. I think there are a lot of prayers recommended by the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam for almost any situation. Specifically, there are some that are pretty relevant to this situation, and that is the one that has been going around on social media, that Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-junoon wal-baras wal-juzam wa min sayyi al-asqam. Praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeking refuge and protection in Allah from madness, from leprosy, from elephantiasis, and from all forms of evil diseases. That is one. And also, there is also a prayer that was given to Sayyidina Usman bin Affan radiallahu ta'ala anhu by the Holy Prophet, which is very common also. Bismillahi alladhi la yadurru ma'a ismihi shay'un fil ard wala fis sama' wa huwa as-sami'ul alim. So this is also a prayer that the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us. We recite it 3 times in the morning and 3 times in the evening. So, and any form of prayers seeking Allah's protection and refuge in the Quran, the Sunnah is relevant to this situation. Allah is As-Sami' Al-Basir. Allah sees and hears, so it will surely answer our prayers. And finally, I think the last part of the question was, I didn't. Can you remind me the last part of the question? That was in the special tajud.
Yeah,
so
special tajud,
I mean, there is nothing like a special tajud. If you are used to doing tajud or special dua at a certain time, and that time happens to fall within this period of pandemic, go ahead and do it. but creating a special tajud, special dua for this, to the best of my knowledge, I have not come across anything like that, and Allah knows best. But we have ample du'as in the Quran and in the Sunnah that we can utilize for this occasion. Assalamu alaikum.
Amir, before we go, there is one quick question here. The person wants to know, can I hold off paying my Zakatul Mal due to uncertainties around the economy and fear of potential job loss?
Alhamdulillah, I think the answer to that would be a straightforward no. If you have been blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to possess the nisab, as the ulama calls it, to possess the minimum wealth that zakat is due on, that is an indication that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you and probably elevated you above many other people. So you have enough and you can pay zakat. Please do not hold back. Pay it as soon as possible, especially during this period. There are so many people out there who already lost their job, who are needy, and that zakat will be very helpful to them. Now,
thank you. The next question will be for the president. I'll direct it to Alhaji Bayo Ononuga. It says, who can I contact if I have a personal questions that I cannot ask publicly regarding COVID-19? Do we have a single point of contact or any kind of task force in place as NCNMO, as a body?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. We, at the national level, we have set up a task force to kind of deal with the COVID-19 challenges. And then there is an email, which is COVID-19@ncnmo.org. That's the contact email where if you have any challenges and you think you need somebody to discuss and you think it's very personal to you. Also, I will also advise our members, you can also tap on your local leaders if you feel you feel more safe to discuss that and they are closer to you. But all the same, we have that committee to deal with all those challenges. May Allah help us all.
Okay, so hold on. The next question is also for you. As NCNMO, what kind of financial assistance is available for people who lose their job or they have reduced pay? What is the process for seeking assistance?
Yeah, at the national level also, we have been thinking around this and seeing how do we come to the assistance of our members. Let us be mindful of the fact that NCNMO is a chapter-based organization. We will expect anybody who has any financial situation, financial tough time, to first and foremost go through the chapter that he or she belongs and let them look at it, vet it. But we at the national level, we are already putting something together to see how we can be to the aid of our chapters and our members. NCNMO, we are working and we are going to be working with our various chapters. We have about 30 chapters to work with. We will be working with the chapters to see how we can come to the financial support. There are so many resources that are bound within our local chapters, within our locality, which we will encourage our leaders to kind of research into. Every request is actually not maybe cash-based, but if we are able to get the resources within our localities and we make them available to our members, I believe that will go a long way to ease our problems if we have need. But the national is also there to work with our various chapters to see to how we can alleviate our members' financial needs.
Okay, let's move on to the next question quickly. We know that the federal government is planning to send checks out. There's a question here. Somebody wants to know, if I don't submit my census information for 2020, will I not be getting federal stimulus money?
Yeah, we should first and foremost know why census 2020 is important. I think the importance of census 2020 has nothing to do with the stimulus. It's for the federal government to be able to plan ahead in the next 10 years, to be able to do something around education, hospital facility, and all of that. But it has nothing to do. And if we look at when is the cutoff time or the date that they want to use to do your count, it's talking about April 1st. It has nothing to do with your
stimulus check.
Yeah, and the stimulus has its own requirements and the way it's being calculated. So it's going to be based on your tax filing for this year, if you have done so. If you have not, they will use the 2018 your tax numbers to do the calculation. So it has, and they are not going to kind of link both. I don't think I've read anybody say if you do not file or you do not do your census, you will not be entitled to stimulus.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think you've done justice to the question. BOT Chairman Haji Marshall, the next question is for you, and it's also related to finance. It's one of our members would like to know what is NCNMO planning to reduce cost of future program in terms of, say, registration fee? We know people are losing their job, higher unemployment rate. So what's the deal?
So at this point, all options are on the table. Like I said in my opening remark, this is unprecedented and it's unpredictable. We know where we are now. We don't even know where we're headed. So it's probably too premature to start talking about reducing costs. However, even if we reduce costs, our focus right now is to see how we are going to help our members, our chapters, our individual members. So we are committing resources to that. So if it's necessary for us to eventually reduce costs of running our programs, inshallah, we'll do that. But our primary focus now is to make sure we focus on the welfare of our local chapters, of our members, and make sure that we stay connected spiritually, we stay connected socially. We help our local chapters to fulfill their goals. One other thing I will add to this is our local chapters should understand that the stimulus package out there that's from federal government is going to help individual taxpayers, right? It's going to help individual taxpayers. We're going to get that. However, there's various local, state, and federal funds available to take care of what we are dealing with. So we should not wait until the funds are exhausted before we as Muslims or we as organizations we start getting into that. And that's one of the things, that's one of the reasons why we are doing this. We want to educate our local chapter leaders to focus on what is out there for us to tap into as organization, as taxpayers. Thanks.
Yeah, before I let you go, the next question is also for you. Is NCNMO finding ways for us to safely attend a program, virtual lectures, marriage talks, counseling sessions? What's our plan?
Yeah, so for those who attended the chapter leaders meeting that we had last Sunday, one of the things that Amir is going to be focusing on, working with the Shura, is to be disseminating lectures, virtual lectures to local chapters, working with local chapter leaders. So at this time, we know that local chapter leaders, the Amirs, the Imams, the president in local chapters, they should be giving lectures, staying connected. We don't have to wait until we see ourselves live before we deliver lectures. So we know that our Amir is working on that. That's going to be coming up during the week on a regular basis. This time next week, but inshallah, we're going to be having our convention, our virtual convention. The convention that we wanted to have this week in Raleigh, North Carolina, we're going to have that next week. We are going to focus that and customize that into giving lectures that we want to give in Raleigh, but at the same time, customizing those lectures to what we are dealing with right now. So that's an example of how we want to make sure that we stay connected with our people, spiritually and otherwise. Lastly, we know we are less than 1 month away from Ramadan. During Ramadan, our scholars, they give us lectures every weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sometimes we have them during the week. We are not going to wait we're not going to wait for Ramadan to come before we start doing that. We are getting ready for doing that now, and we want all of us to stay connected and stay engaged as we deploy those resources out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Talking about staying engaged and staying connected, Amir, the next question will be for you. One of our members would like to know, what are we doing as an organization to collaborate with other non-profit organizations to support Muslims and non-Muslims, under these circumstances?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. That's a very important question, and I think we have a lot of very relevant Islamic organizations around. ICNA is one of them, CARE is another one, and there are a lot of programs that they are helping to coordinate locally. So my advice would be that each chapter should reach out to their local representative of ICNA, ICARE, to see what kind of program or assistance they can offer, or what kind of collaboration do they have with the local authorities that we can take advantage of. This will be my first advice, because this is something that has affected everybody. The whole country is neck and knee deep in this, and but as the president and the BOT chairman mentioned, there are a lot of resources out there at the local government, state government, and federal level. The most important thing is for the leadership of every chapter to figure out what those are and disseminate the information to our members so that they can take advantage of them.
Thank you, Amir. At this point in time, we'll switch back to the medical expert in the house to take the other questions that we have. We're running out of time, and we want to move a little bit pretty quickly. And for our audience at home who are listening in or watching us live, if you need any part of these broadcasts, it's being recorded. We'll make it available. We can always go back to it and take advantage of technology in this regard. Also, there is going to be a survey after the program. We want your feedback. We appreciate your candid assessment of this program. What are the things that we did right or areas we need to improve? So be on the lookout for that survey, and that would, we'll incorporate that into subsequent program. Dr. Salman, there is a question here that I would like you to address pretty quickly. It says, can someone have COVID-19 infection twice?
Salam alaikum. The COVID-19 reinfection, it's not clear-cut at this point in time, because like we said, it's still a novel disease condition. There are situations where somebody has COVID-19 and subsequently tested negative, and then after some time tested positive, even in the United States with some of my colleagues, that are practicing infectious disease. But to state clearly if somebody is going to get reinfection, we are not sure at this point in time, because if somebody has the disease condition, you develop antibody against it. Because of the fact that the virus is continuously mutating, it's still a possibility that you can get reinfection. But at this point in time, it's still nebulous. It's not really clear. Research is the study is still undergoing at this point in time. So it's not clear cut. at this point in time.
Yeah. The next one, before I let you go, someone is asking: is bitterness of a mouth, feeling bitterness in your mouth, is it a symptom of COVID-19?
That also is not clear. The only thing that we do know that is almost clear for now is the fact that it's lack of taste, lack of smell, that are associated with COVID-19. But in terms of bitterness, it's not clear-cut symptomatology. Of course, we do know fever, cough, lack of smell, lack of taste. Those are things that we know that can happen with COVID-19 at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Adeyinka, let me bring you on for the next question. This is a very point-blank question. It says, I have a 70-year-old dad at home. Is he going to die if he contracts COVID-19?
Let me issue a disclaimer that only Allah knows who is going to die and who is not going to die from any infection. If you look at the what is happening around the world, in China, they found a lot of people dying in the age and those over the age of 80s and above. We've had people in the US that in their 30s and have died. So if you look at the death rate of 6.8 in that 70-year-old group, maybe not. We have to be careful how we interpret the statistics though, because everybody has their own individual risk factors. So what a 70-year-old that is healthy compared to a 70-year-old with comorbid conditions that like hypertension, diabetes, do they have cancer, do they have other diseases. So you can't really say, I cannot say point blank whether your grandmother or grandfather that is age of 70 will actually die.
Thank you. I'm actually going to throw these questions to the floor. Whoever feels good to answer it. It says, what advice do you have for parents getting overwhelmed with working from home, dealing with the kids, homeschooling, can't go outside to play, under house arrest?
Assalamu alaikum. Let me stop the question real quick. I know others will have one or two things to add to it. My first take on that is, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, for every situation as Muslim, we should see an opportunity to be thankful to Allah. One of which in this situation would be, I think the situation has presented an opportunity for the family to bond. The parents, they go out Monday through Friday. Some parents work 7 days a week. They hardly spend time with their children. But as a result of this COVID-19, we are all at home. This is an opportunity for us to get close to our family, get to know your children, know their thoughts and, what they're going through, help them with their homework. There's a lot of things we can do together as a family. The family should be engaging in Jama'ah Salat at home, since the massages are closed. And a lot of family activities can be done together at this point, which I think, in my opinion, is one of the positive things that is coming out of this crisis. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So also the next question, I'm guessing it's going to be between Haji Masha and Alhaji Bayo Nonuga. It's a tax-related question with regards to non-profit organization. It says, IRS requires that any payment to an individual that's $600 or more required 1099 form. How should organizations such as ours prevent ourselves from breaking the rule when we make, relief donation or, to such individuals?
So I'll attempt that. I'm not an income tax expert, and my area of expertise is not non-for-profit. But generally in tax, anytime you make you issue payment, you must make sure that you have a receipt. You document that. So issuing a 1099, I don't think it's appropriate for you to issue a 1099 to someone that is not eligible to work. So if someone is on your payroll, or you are giving money to someone who is your contractor, that person has presented himself as someone eligible to earn your income. So we have to make sure that we follow the law of the land, whether we are helping or not, is different. So when we are helping someone, providing income to a particular person who is providing services to us, right, we have to make sure that we follow the law, whether we are doing that personally or we are doing that as a community. If I were an imam or a president of an organization, and I have someone that is working for our organization, if that person is not eligible to work in this country, I will not be comfortable paying. I will not be comfortable hiring. I will not be comfortable having the services of that person. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. There is another question on the floor, but this is for the medical expert. So again, I'll throw it open to the floor. It says, if a patient comes with a diagnosis of pneumonia and has not been tested for COVID-19, what's your advice? What should that person do?
Assalamu alaikum. This is Dr. Adinka. I will, if that person and we have a clear diagnosis of pneumonia, so pneumonia itself, it's your immunity may become compromised. So if you don't have COVID-19, inshallah, you still have to protect yourself. But let me say this, it depends on what kind of pneumonia. So because we know that the tests that we're doing, they're not 100% sensitive, there will be some false negative tests. So what is the pneumonia with COVID? The lung disease that you get with COVID-19 affect both sides of the lungs, and then you get pneumonia on top of that. Bacterial pneumonia are very unlikely to affect two sides of the lungs. So if you have bilateral pneumonia, you have a fever, then your physician should treat you as if you have COVID-19, and you still have to be very, very careful. All in all, prevention is better than cure. I think that with any infection, we should continue to wash our hands. We should limit our exposure so that we're not giving it to our family members. I wanted to comment on what are some of the things we could do while we're staying at home. I don't think we should. I think we should talk about the importance of exercise. That the fact that we're not walking, we should pick out some kind of exercise. Maybe walking in your neighborhood and promoting, of course, social distancing. You can there's a lot of apps there, yoga exercise and things like that. Exercise itself helps with mental illness. It helps your physical endurance. So we shouldn't forget about that, so that we're just not exercising between our living room and the fridge. I think we should get out there and do some physical exercises. Thank you.
Thank you. On a lighter mood, there is a question here. And I want Elijah Adeni to make an attempt. It says, can I kiss my spouse during self-quarantine? You're on mute, Elijah. You need to unmute yourself, please.
Mute.
Yeah, okay, you're live now.
Yes. With that question, the person is already on self-quarantine.
Self-isolation, yeah. Okay.
Self-isolation, self-quarantine. With that, it's not even to the extent of, the family member, kissing. It's not something that's advisable to do during that period of 14 days. However, there is other ways that one can show love to the person that is on, quarantine, like, doing the, calling them on the phone or doing the video chat and, show that you love, you care for him or her during that period. Because this thing is, being on self-quarantine can be a mentally disturbance during that period. So it's not even advisable for you to go there and kiss that person during that period. And the family member should observe all these precautionary measure that's stipulated during the period of 14 days. And after 14 days, then the person can get a check, for this COVID-19 or test. Then they can decide if the person can be mingled with the family.
Thank you, Raja Dini. We are approaching the end of the program. When we were putting this together, we thought 2 hours. It's a very long time. But from the look of things, we know there are a lot of questions out there. We have various outlets from which we're getting questions, the text, the SMS line, the NCNMO WhatsApp group, and the email address. So from the look of things, we would not be able to attend to all the questions in this session. So it's becoming inevitable that there will be a part 2 of this program. It's been suggested, there has been questions about it. What is NCNMO's plan to continue to engage with the membership virtually? So this is one of such attempts. Next week, it's another day for the virtual convention. So to be able to attend to everybody's questions, we know there will be more questions down the line. So please keep them coming. The leadership of the organization, they're already, as we're talking now, as we're live on this program, they're already, contemplating a part 2. So part 2, it's more like it's going to be a reality. So please keep the questions coming. We'll take note of them and we'll, inshallah, do justice to them in the second part. The details will be announced later. Please watch out. We are a faith-based organization. We believe in the efficacy of prayer. We believe that nothing happens without the will of Almighty Allah, and everything, whether COVID-19, whether economic crisis, whether anxiety, everything can be, taken care of with the power of prayer. So to end the session, I would give the floor to the Amir, Imam Mansour Olajide, to pray for the entire community, both here and overseas, to pray for the nation, to see us through what we're currently going through. Amir, over to you, sir.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. We give praise and thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who made this program a success for all of us. And on a personal note, I want to thank all of the speakers as well as our listeners at home and wherever they may be. We thank you very much for tuning in into this program. And we pray and beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save and protect us, to protect our families, our community, this ummah, and the entire humanity from the sickness of coronavirus. Allah, we beseech you, we have none but you, O Allah. Save us, save humanity, help us cut away this evil disease and bring back peace and rest of mind to humanity. Rabbana آتينا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام، فحينا ربنا بالسلام. تبارك ربنا وتعاليت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Amen. Thank you, Amir. To our audience at home, please, we're sending out the survey form. Please let us have your feedback. It is very important for quality improvement so that we can adequately address the needs of the community. Please let us have the feedback. We're going to make it available. The link to fill in the form, we're going to make it available via the NCNMO WhatsApp group. We're going to send it out in an email. If you're on our text message also, you're going to get it via text message. Please endeavor to fill this survey form and watch out for the part 2 of this program, inshallah. We will be communicating the detail to everyone. I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody that has participated in the program, all our presenters at very short notice. Jazakumullahu khairan. May Almighty Allah reward you abundantly. And to all our audience at home from all parts of the United States, we say Jazakumullahu khairan. May Almighty Allah accept the time and effort as an act of ibadah for all of us. Thank you. Jazakumullahu khairan. We hope to see you for the second episode of this program. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, everyone.